Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. In the bank's luxurious lobby, Hamilton and Company, every detail exuded opulence: polished marble, glittering chandeliers, and plush carpets that seemed to swallow the footsteps of visitors. Samantha Brooks, the manager, adjusted her glasses and watched the employees with a stern gaze. Nothing escaped her critical eye. That morning, a customer entered, calm and elegant, dressed simply but with a natural presence. It was Marcus Jefferson, a black man in his 40s, who seemed to have all the patience in the world. Samantha immediately felt a surge of inexplicable irritation. Another customer, who's going to take up my time, she thought. When Marcus approached her desk to ask a simple question about an account, Samantha didn't hold back. Her voice was sharp, almost contemptuous. "Sir, we have rules here. Please fill out this form correctly and quickly. I don't have time to waste on mistakes." Marcus remained calm. He offered a slight smile, polite but firm. Samantha, blinded by her usual arrogance and a prejudice she refused to admit, flew into a rage, humiliating the customer in front of the employees and other visitors. But what she didn't know was that Marcus Jefferson wasn't an ordinary customer. He was the majority owner of Hamilton and Company. The man she humiliated every morning in her sumptuous lobby was in reality the one who held ultimate power over her and her career. Silence fell. Marcus calmly put down the form, looked up, and said in a composed but icy voice, "Samantha, I think you've forgotten one small thing. I am the owner of this bank." At that moment, Samantha's gaze hardened, her arrogant smile crumbling. Everyone around felt the weight of the shock. The manager who had humiliated clients now found herself at the mercy of someone she considered inferior. Karma, invisible but relentless, had just struck. The bank lobby, Hamilton and Company. The room hummed with the murmur of customers and the click of heels on the marble floor. Samantha Brooks, manager for the past 5 years, paced her office like a queen on her throne. Her reputation as a demanding, even authoritarian, woman preceded her. For her, every customer had to abide by her rules, or face her wrath. That morning, a man entered, Marcus Jefferson, elegant but unassuming in appearance. He wore neither a flashy suit nor an expensive watch, only a simple coat and a confident gaze. Samantha noticed him immediately. To her, he seemed like an ordinary customer, the kind who slowed her down and caused her unnecessary hassle. "Good morning, madam," said Marcus, approaching, a hint of courtesy in his voice. "Hello." Samantha frowned. "Fill out this form and make sure you don't make any mistakes." "I don't have time to waste on clients who can't read a simple form," she said sharply. Marcus calmly took the form, observing the tension that was building around them. He gave a polite but slightly amused smile, a smile that betrayed no fear, no embarrassment. "You are very demanding, madam," he said softly. "Demanding?" Samantha retorted with a chilling laugh. "You should say, impatient with incompetent people," she corrected in front of the employees and other customers. Marcus didn't reply immediately. He simply filled out the form meticulously and deliberately, slowly, looking calmly into Samantha's eyes. Every word he wrote seemed to weigh heavily on his arrogance. Samantha, blinded by her own authority and unconscious prejudice, had no idea that Marcus Jefferson was no ordinary customer. He owned more than half the bank's shares, and this moment of humiliation would quickly backfire on her. The chapter ends on this contrast: the confident, self-assured manager, and the mysteriously calm client, carrying within him the power to change her life forever. After carefully filling out the form, Marcus Jefferson gently placed his pen on the desk. Samantha, still in her authoritarian role, picked up the document and quickly scanned it, frowning at every line, searching for a non-existent error. Interesting," she murmured, looking up, trying to maintain her superiority. "I see you can read and write properly. That's rare." Marcus gave a faint smile, but didn't reply. He knew the real surprise would come later. Samantha, pleased with herself, looked up and around, making sure all the employees had seen her little display of power. She liked that feeling of control. But something was off. There was an assurance in Marcus's posture, a tranquility that never wavered. As she was preparing to place the form back on the counter and move on to another customer, Marcus placed his hand on the document and said calmly, "Before we conclude, Mrs. Brooks, I think it's only fair that you know one small thing." Samantha raised an eyebrow, intrigued but amused. "Oh? And what would this little thing be?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly with impatience to move on. Marcus looked her straight in the eyes, with an intensity that made the headmistress shudder in spite of herself. "I am Marcus Jefferson, and I own the majority of the shares in this bank." Silence fell instantly. The clients around them felt the weight of the revelation. Samantha remained frozen, unable to speak, her hands trembling slightly on the form. All her authority, all her confidence, crumbled in an instant. Marcus added calmly, "Everything you just did, this humiliation, you inflicted it on your own boss." The employees, who had previously been intimidated by Samantha, exchanged stunned glances. The manager who had humiliated others now found herself under the cold, implacable gaze of the one she had considered inferior. The chapter ends on this shocking note: Samantha's position of power is called into question, and Marcus Jefferson, silent but powerful, now holds all the cards. The silence in the hall of Hamilton and Company, the tension was almost palpable. Customers held their breath, while employees wrung their hands, torn between fear and curiosity. Samantha Brooks, the hitherto self-assured manager, felt her heart pounding. Her mind frantically searched for an escape, but there wasn't one. Marcus Jefferson rose slowly, his natural authority evident. Each step he took seemed to mark the ground with his power, and each glance he cast at Samantha added an invisible but unbearable weight. "Samantha," he said calmly, addressing the employees and customers present, "I believe it is time everyone here understood that respect goes both ways." Samantha, red with anger and humiliation, tried to reply. That's impossible. You're a customer like any other." Marcus shook his head with a polite but implacable smile. "Not this time. Here, I'm not a customer. I'm the owner. And your actions have just been observed." One of the employees, unable to contain his curiosity, whispered, "She really humiliated him, and he's the boss?" Marcus approached Samantha's desk and placed the form down with a precise gesture. "Samantha, I'm going to give you some advice. Arrogance and contempt for others, especially those you believe to be inferior, come at a price." At that moment, Samantha felt all eyes upon her. The power and confidence she had always prided herself on crumbled under the weight of the truth. The customers who had seen her humiliate Marcus began to whisper, some in astonishment, others with a smile of silent satisfaction. Marcus continued, "Starting today, there will be changes, so that everyone here is treated with respect, regardless of their appearance or position." Samantha then understood the magnitude of her situation. She was no longer the undisputed queen of this hall. Karma had struck, and it had struck her where she least expected it. The chapter ends with a petrified Samantha, aware that she will have to face not only public humiliation but also the professional consequences of her past actions. The next morning, the lobby of Hamilton and Company, the atmosphere was already lively, but it had changed. The employees, who had previously marched to Samantha's every command, exchanged cautious glances. Marcus Jefferson's name now circulated like an electric whisper. News of the director's public humiliation had spread quickly. Samantha, sitting behind her desk, tried to regain her composure, but shock and anxiety gripped her. Every sound, every footstep in the hall seemed to amplify her inner fear. She had always believed her power was unassailable, but now she understood that it could crumble in an instant. Marcus entered the bank, accompanied by an aura of assured calm. The employees instinctively moved aside, while Samantha felt her blood run cold. "Good morning, everyone," said Marcus in a calm but firm voice. "We are going to make a few changes," he announced. Samantha tried to speak again, but her words seemed weak and useless. "Marcus. It's not what you think." Marcus fixed his piercing gaze on her. Samantha, what I saw yesterday leaves no room for misunderstanding. Respect and courtesy are not optional at this bank. Starting today, we will implement strict training and protocols to ensure that every customer and every employee is treated fairly. The employees and customers present listened attentively, some smiling with quiet satisfaction. Samantha's once invincible image was beginning to crumble. The director then understood that this was not just a one-off humiliation. Her career, her reputation, and her authority were now under Marcus's control. Every decision she made from now on would be scrutinized, and the slightest misstep could be irreversible. Marcus paused, letting the silence hang heavy in the hall before adding, "And Samantha, I advise you to reflect on your past behavior. Changes begin now, and I will be watching your every move." Samantha, helpless, lowered her eyes. She understood that she had just crossed a point of no return. Karma had not only struck, but it was beginning to transform her professional and personal life irreversibly. In the days that followed, Samantha Brooks felt every glance upon her. Employees, once fearful, began to discuss the incident openly. Even customers looked at her differently, some with suspicion, others with quiet satisfaction. The bank manager's hitherto unchallenged reputation was beginning to crack. Marcus Jefferson, for his part, fully embraced his role as owner with a calm but relentless authority. He implemented new rules to reinforce respect for all customers and employees, and Samantha found herself forced to enforce them, often reluctantly. One morning, as she was preparing to receive an important client, Marcus entered her office. "Samantha," he said, "I would like you to attend a customer service training session. I want you to understand what respect means." Samantha, stunned, tried to protest. "Marcus, I'm the manager, I know how to handle clients." "Not yesterday," Marcus replied calmly. "You must learn that power without respect is empty." The meeting was a humiliating experience for Samantha. The trainers emphasized the importance of equality and courtesy, and she had to listen, unable to speak, as each example of bad behavior was illustrated by her own incident with Marcus. The employees, who had always seen her as unwavering, even allowed themselves a few knowing smiles. Each silent laugh was like a small victory for Marcus and for the social justice that was beginning to take hold in the bank. That evening, Samantha returned home, her face etched with fatigue and humiliation. She began to realize that her position of power, acquired through arrogance and unilateral authority, was now nothing more than a fragile facade. Marcus, meanwhile, continued to assert his leadership with calm and fairness, strengthening employee respect and transforming the bank's culture. The chapter ends with Samantha, alone in her apartment, facing her first real introspection. The world no longer respected her position, and karma had just shown her how blind she had been. A few days after the mandatory training, an incident would irrevocably alter Samantha Brooks's reputation. The bank was hosting a group of important clients for an investment presentation. Samantha, accustomed to shining at such events, expected to impress and regain some of her lost authority. Marcus, however, had other plans. Right from the start of the meeting, he addressed all the clients and employees. "Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that our bank values respect and equality. Unfortunately, some past behaviors were not in line with these values." Samantha felt her heart clench. The customer's eyes turned towards her. Marcus continued. "Yesterday, I attended a demonstration of what lack of respect can cause. One of our managers humiliated a customer in an unacceptable way. Luckily, that customer was me." The silence that followed was crushing. Samantha remained frozen, unable to breathe. The customers exchanged shocked glances, while the employees barely suppressed a smile. It's crucial that everyone here understands that hierarchy doesn't justify contempt. In this bank, respect is the true authority, Marcus concluded calmly. The meeting continued, but Samantha felt crushed. Every word Marcus spoke seemed to weigh on her reputation, every glance from clients and employees a reminder of her humiliation. She realized that her former authority was now nothing more than a fragile illusion, and that her credibility was now tainted in the eyes of everyone who truly mattered. The chapter ends with Samantha sitting in silence, realizing that karma is not limited to private lessons, it can manifest publicly, transforming a simple mistake into total humiliation. In the weeks that followed, Samantha Brooks began to fully feel the consequences of her past arrogance. Marcus Jefferson had implemented new internal rules to reinforce respect and fairness. Every decision, every interaction with a client or employee was now observed and evaluated. One morning, Samantha received an official email from Marcus. From today onward, you will be directly supervised by me for all your important decisions concerning clients and staff. Your role remains operational management, but all initiatives will require approval. The shock was immense. Samantha, used to acting freely and imposing her will, understood that she had just lost a significant part of her power. Every move was now scrutinized, and her past mistakes were used as examples to remind everyone of the importance of respect. In the lobby, the employees watched Samantha with a mixture of renewed respect and caution. Some were beginning to speak to her more frankly, now feeling supported by Marcus and protected by the new rules. During a meeting, Marcus spoke up. We all have moments when we forget the importance of respect. The key is to correct our mistakes and create a fair environment for everyone. Samantha, you are here to learn as much as to lead. Samantha, sitting in silence, understood that her role as director was no longer synonymous with absolute power, but with humility and responsibility. She felt a deep unease, but also a realization: she had to change if she hoped to one day regain the trust of her colleagues and clients. The chapter ends with Samantha deep in thought in her empty office, aware that her once coveted position was now fragile and contingent on her future behavior. Marcus, meanwhile, continued to calmly consolidate his authority, gradually transforming the bank into a place of respect and fairness. A few weeks after losing her privileges, Samantha Brooks began to feel a change within herself. The public humiliations, Marcus's control, and the stares of the employees had finally opened the manager's eyes to her past behavior. She realized that her arrogance had hurt not only Marcus, but also many other clients and colleagues. One morning, Marcus summoned Samantha to his office for a private meeting. Samantha, he said calmly, I've noticed that you've changed some of your attitudes in your interactions with staff and customers. But respect must be consistent and genuine, not just strategic. Samantha lowered her eyes, aware that her past actions could not disappear overnight. I understand, she replied timidly. I never realized how much I could have hurt others through my arrogance. I want to change, I really want to change. Marcus nodded. Very well. We'll start with a simple test. During this week, you'll observe all customer service interactions and note your own behavior. I want you to acknowledge your mistakes without trying to justify them. It was a difficult week for Samantha. Every mistake, every abrupt gesture, even unintentional, was immediately noticeable and reminded her of her past arrogance. The employees, initially suspicious, began to recognize her sincere effort. Some even offered her encouraging smiles, which reinforced her self-awareness. The chapter ends with Samantha, late at night in her office, reflecting on everything she has learned. For the first time, she feels genuine humility and understands that respect must be the foundation of all human and professional relationships. Marcus, meanwhile, discreetly observes her progress, ready to guide and assess her path toward complete transformation. Several months had passed since Samantha Brooks's public humiliation. She had shown signs of remorse and had begun to sincerely apply the principles of respect and fairness established by Marcus Jefferson. But Marcus knew that true transformation could only be confirmed by a concrete test. One morning, he summoned Samantha in front of all the staff and customers to discuss a delicate situation. A disgruntled customer, known for his difficult temperament, had come to resolve a major dispute concerning an investment. Samantha had to handle the situation without Marcus's intervention. Samantha, Marcus said calmly in front of everyone, this is your moment. Show that you understand what respect and responsibility mean. The manager felt the pressure mounting. The eyes of all employees and customers were on her. Her heart was racing, but this time it wasn't fear of power that dominated her, but the desire to prove that she had changed. The arrogant and provocative customer began to provoke her, attempting to replicate the humiliation she had inflicted on Marcus. But Samantha, taking deep breaths, remained calm. She listened attentively, sincerely acknowledged the bank's mistakes, and proposed concrete solutions to resolve the problem. The employees watched in astonishment. The arrogant and ruthless Samantha was gone. She spoke with humility, firmness, and respect. The client, surprised by her mature and honest reaction, accepted her proposals and left the bank satisfied. Marcus, who had been observing the scene from the office, smiled slightly. He knew that Samantha's transformation was no longer theoretical, it had been tested in practice and had succeeded. The chapter ends with Samantha feeling relieved but deeply aware that respect and humility are never truly attainable. She had taken a crucial step, but her journey toward true maturity had only just begun. A few weeks after the ordeal of the dissatisfied customer, the bank Hamilton and Co.it breathed a new atmosphere. Employees felt respected and valued, and customers immediately perceived the change in the way management handled relationships. Samantha Brooks, for her part, had changed profoundly. The public humiliation, the constant checks, and the trials imposed by Marcus had forced her to reflect on her mistakes and develop genuine humility. She was no longer the authoritarian and arrogant headmistress she once was. Now, her authority rested on mutual respect and competence, not on fear or domination. One morning, Marcus summoned Samantha to his office. "Samantha," he said calmly but with a smile, "I think you've proven yourself. Your transformation is real, and I'm proud to see that you've become a leader worthy of the name." Samantha felt an intense emotion rising within her, gratitude, relief, and genuine pride. "Thank you, Marcus," she replied, her voice trembling. "I never would have believed that such a humiliating event could change me so much. I finally understand that respect is more important than power." Marcus nodded. "Exactly. And remember, Samantha, true leadership is about lifting others up, not crushing them." In the weeks that followed, Samantha applied her new values to all her interactions. She guided her employees with encouragement, listened attentively to clients, and always kept the lessons learned in mind. The bank thrived, not only thanks to Marcus's strategic decisions, but also thanks to a renewed and respectful internal culture. The chapter, and the story, ends with Samantha standing in the bank's brightly lit lobby, looking at Marcus with gratitude and respect. Karma had struck, but it had also offered a valuable lesson and a chance at redemption. She was no longer the same, and neither was the bank. The moral was clear: power without respect is empty, but humility and gratitude can transform not just a career, but an entire life.